Well, and he's also channeling some stuff. You can't call 9/11 in detail because you're super informed.
Before the fact.
He called it.
Yes.
He literally called it in the summer of 2001. He said planes will fly into the World Trade Centers and they will blame a man called Osama bin Laden.
When Tucker Carlson first went on Joe Rogan, Tucker said some things to Joe Rogan that really, really pissed off a lot of people, especially people like Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, and the rest of the neocons out there. In this clip, a lot of people aren't talking about, but Tucker Carlson once again sets off all those neocons, such as Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin and the rest of the Daily Wire, except for people like Matt Walsh, which I don't think he'll be part of the Daily Wire for much longer. But anyway, Tucker Carlson, the things that he's saying right here to Joe Rogan are really going to piss off the Daily Wire whenever they see these clips, because a lot of people aren't talking about this yet, but I think very soon they're going to be complaining about this. Let's check out this clip here from Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan talking about why Alex Jones was so right, and really just waking up Joe Rogan to how right Alex Jones was and just how crazy the people out there have gotten. Let's check this out.
Or willingness to platform or to have a conversation with Alex Jones, I think, was a revolutionary act, actually. Not that everything Alex Jones says is right. It's not. Not everything I say is right or anyone says is right. But Alex Jones is an interesting person. And even if he's not interesting, he has been walled off from the rest of us through name calling. And your willingness to be like, no, actually, we're just going to listen to Alex Jones and you can decide for yourself.
Well, Alex has been my friend for more than 20 years.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure you have other friends you haven't invited. And just like,
right.
You were not allowed to talk to him. And when you hear Alex Jones talk, you definitely understand why they told you couldn't listen to Alex Jones.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I had him as one of the first guests when I came over to Spotify.
Love that.
I was like, let's go.
What did they say?
Well, a lot of people weren't happy. We lost sponsors. It was
of course. And I bet a lot of people, it's not even just leftists either. Like I said, these things that they're talking about here are going to piss off Ben Shapiro, and probably have already pissed off Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire and all those kinds of people who just want the mainstream narrative to be the narrative that everyone believes. You know, the main reason why Ben Shapiro got mad at Tucker and Joe Rogan is because they were questioning certain narratives, such as AI, you know, taking over and should we stop AI before it develops too much? And then they start talking about, should we have stopped the development of the nuclear bomb before we, you know, developed that too much and ended up bombing Japan? Tucker Carlson said it's obviously evil to go and kill that many innocent people. And Ben Shapiro took offense to that and said, no, it's not actually evil, it's the right thing to do, blah, blah, blah. And it's because if you start to question the boomer conservative narratives that Ben Shapiro and the rest of those kinds of people like to spew out there, that's when they take offense, because that's the kind of people that they pander to. That's the narratives that they pander to. That's the narratives that they want to continue to push forward. So saying things like, you know, Alex Jones has been right about a lot of things and that you should bring him on the Joe Rogan Experience a lot more and stuff like that, of course, it's going to piss off people like Ben Shapiro, because Alex Jones has been awake on a lot of these things and is starting to wake up to a lot of things that Ben Shapiro's favorite country is doing wrong recently. And I believe Ben Shapiro recently called Alex Jones a quack. And that's you know, his own words, not mine. Let's check out the rest of this clip here from Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan.
It was an issue, but I think it did the job. And one of the reasons why he's gone through some issues is because that guy is uncovering real shit that's terrifying every fucking day. When you see so many lies and so much propaganda and so many psyops that are being done on people, you start seeing them where they don't exist. And that's what he did.
Well, and he's also channeling some stuff. You can't call 9/11 in detail because you're super informed.
Before the fact.
He called it.
Yes.
He literally called it in the summer of 2001. He said planes will fly into the World Trade Centers and they will blame a man called Osama bin Laden.
We know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame.
Which is yet another thing that Ben Shapiro doesn't want you to believe in. The Daily Wire in general. Even like I leave Matt Walsh out of those statements because Matt Walsh tries to push back on these things, but then he's shut down every time. I did a video on it yesterday, and I've done a video on it in the past as well, where on these group podcasts that they do, Matt Walsh tries to question the things that Ben Shapiro and Andrew Klavan and Jeremy Boring try to say. and he gets shut down and cut off every single time. Michael Knowles, I believe, also agrees with Matt Walsh on a lot of these things, but he just kind of sits quiet and sits off to the side, you know, and he doesn't really push back as much because I think he knows what will happen if he does. 9/11 is another one of those things where Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire just want you to believe a certain narrative, you know, that's pushed by the mainstream media. There's not much difference between Ben Shapiro and Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. There's not much of a difference. The only difference is that the Daily Wire claims and frames themselves as a refuge for people who are tired of being lied to by the mainstream media, and then they go and give you the same exact talking points that the mainstream media does with a little bit of a looser tone. You know, they're able to be themselves a little bit more, less buttoned up, less professional, but it's not much different, you know. And this is just another example of something that they don't want you to, you know, they've made fun of people who think that 9/11 was an inside job or whatever. Whether or not you think it is, put it aside for this video, but I think it's okay to question things regardless. But from Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire's point of view, and the, you know, the traditional conservative, the boomer conservative narrative out there that, you know, it was other people and we went and got them and then we dumped them into the ocean or whatever. They don't want you questioning that narrative. And it really pisses them off that Tucker and Joe Rogan, or Tucker Carlson, is able to go on Joe Rogan and further question these narratives and further give props to Alex Jones for getting this stuff right.
Terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite, he's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system.
We know that he said that because he said it on tape multiple times. And then he said, call the White House and tell them this.
Now I'm going to put the call out that you call the White House and tell them, look, we've seen the news stories that you've wanted to blow things up, that you have.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Have blown things up, and that we're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this. This can stop this Hitlerian Reichstag event.
He's channeling something.
You think
That's
so?
super. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There's like no other. I mean, tell me how he did it otherwise. I've asked him about it. How did you do that? At length, he had dinner in my barn recently. We were talking about this. How'd you do that? I don't know. It just came to me. And that's real. And that's not a new phenomenon. It's happened throughout history. There were people called prophets. And there were people who were prophets who weren't called prophets, but there are people who have information or parts of information, bits of information, visions of information come to them, and then they relay it. It's not.
I don't know if you guys just caught that, but Tucker Carlson basically just called Alex Jones a prophet on Joe Rogan. Now, I don't know if I would go as far as to say he's a prophet. He definitely knows things that a lot of people don't know. I believe his dad was also really involved in like the intelligence agencies and stuff like that. So he's really well connected. He might have, I don't know, maybe through information that he's gotten from a bunch of different sources, put it together. Maybe it was just a wild prediction. Maybe he is a prophet. I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as to say that he's a prophet, because he's gotten some things wrong as well, but it's undeniable how many things he's gotten right. The reason why I wanted to bring that to your attention is because Tucker Carlson, not only did he piss off the Daily Wire and the other neocons from saying that U.S. shouldn't have bombed Japan indirectly, but he just called Alex Jones a prophet, who is a direct enemy to all of the boomer conservative narratives out there. You know, he is the enemy. And that's why he got taken off the map by so many people, so many platforms, is because he is the enemy of all the boomer conservative narratives out there. So that's really gonna set them off. I don't even know if they know about this or have seen this yet, but once they do, it's really gonna piss them off.
From them, they received it. This is like one of the oldest phenomenon in human history. So those people tend to be a little crazy, a little imbalanced, a little different from everybody else. Do you know what I mean? They live on locusts and honey in the wilderness. I mean, that's just like, they're not like everybody else. And that's clearly part of what, I'm not saying that everything that Alex Jones says is a prophecy from God. It's not. But that was prophetic. And if it wasn't, tell me how it wasn't. In July of 2000, like I lived in Washington in July of 2001. You know, my dad worked in the government. Like I was as well informed as anybody could be about what was going on in the government. I've always been interested in what's happening in other countries. I was aware of Osama bin Laden. I knew about the Taliban. I knew, more than most people. There's not one person who was saying, not one person in Washington, D.C. was saying, at some point soon, they may fly airplanes into the World Trade Centers and blame Osama bin Laden. Like that just wasn't a thing. So if you said that multiple times on camera, there's a reason. I've said this to 50.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that this is some kind of supernatural connection that Alex Jones has, or do you think that he's just intaken? I don't even know if that's a word. He's taken in so much information over the years that he was just able to come up with that prediction. Maybe it was a shot in the dark that just happened to come true. I don't know. I don't know. To say he's a prophet, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he does have some supernatural connection. That's a wild statement from Tucker Carlson, but he's also one of those that he'll say things like that. You think it's wild, and then it'll come true later on. So let me know in the comments what you're thinking. I definitely know that this one pissed off Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire, because calling the direct enemy of the boomer conservative narrative that they like to push, that's to call him a prophet. That's going to get you on their bad side real quick. Let me know in the comments. Do you think that Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan are right about Alex Jones, or do you think they're completely wrong? Let me know what you're thinking about this whole Joe Rogan Experience episode.